Hello everybody, it's Lara with your daily update for Bitcoin, Ethereum and XRP, posting a little bit earlier today because there's waves here in Barbados and I'm going to go surfing. I'm going to step back and look at the weekly chart for all of these and explain to you why I think the last major lows are going to be sustained for the long term. By the long term I mean years. This low for Bitcoin in November 2022 has some technical evidence to support the idea that it's probably going to be sustained. One of the things you can't see on the weekly chart, but I'll show you when I get to the daily, is exponential growth in this piece of movement up here. And you don't see that in a bear market rally, but you do see that in a bull market run. I am still expecting this last swing low within this shorter term upward trend, this new part of the upward trend, to be breached, but that doesn't mean that we have to see a new low below this price point back here. I still expect a final downward thrust for this pullback to reach below 24,800. It may stop at 21,500, but there's really strong support at 19,500. I think that might be where it ends, and if it does get down there, there's such strong support there. That's the December 2017 high. I don't expect this price point to be breached, and that would be a normal deep pullback following the first 5 up for Bitcoin off a major low. That would be absolutely normal to be expected behaviour. Looking at volume, it's absolutely fallen off a cliff, but it's in the context from here of price moving sideways. This is a consolidation. We've got resistance about 31,000, support about 24,800, and since price entered this in March 2023, it's just been moving sideways. So interest declines when price moves sideways. That's normal behaviour, although in this instance the decline in volume is extreme. You have to go back to, I think 2014 to find volume as light as this, but it doesn't mean that the bull market, the largest secular bull market for Bitcoin, must be over and that Bitcoin must continue lower. It just means there's a consolidation. Now we wait for a breakout, either above the resistance or below support, and then once we've seen the breakout we wait for price to end at next support or resistance, and then we expect a new trend. So if we see a downward breakout, as I am expecting we will, I expect it'll stop about 19,500. Only if this low in November 2022 is taken out would I be really concerned, but I'm going to show you some evidence for why I think this low is likely to remain intact. On the weekly time frame we do have a bullish candlestick pattern. It does have push from volume. Since that low, it's upward weeks which have much stronger volume than downward, and our price is moving sideways with extremely weak volume. ADX is declining, the DX lines are whipsawing. That's typical behaviour for a consolidation. And remember, the market has 3 directions: up, down or sideways, and currently Bitcoin's sideways. It's the most patience testing direction you can have, so have patience, keep your eye on the bigger picture. At this low, and this is one reason why I think this is going to be sustained, here's the low in November 2022, here's the corresponding point in RSI. RSI reached fairly oversold. Now it doesn't tend to do that very often in Bitcoin's price history. The last time it did it was December 2018, and that low has been sustained for years. So that's a sustainable low. It reached oversold, and then on a closing basis it's exhibited some clear, strong, bullish divergence. If you see that around a low, you can have reasonable confidence that low will be sustained, but that's not the only reason. Okay, for the current range for on-balance volume, now I went over on-balance volume in yesterday's video, and this is my favourite way to use it because it works so well. When you get a range and you draw support and resistance on on-balance volume, you wait for a breakout, and then you usually see price follow in that same direction. Not always, it doesn't always work, but it works much more often than it fails. This is a relatively reliable use of on-balance volume. On the weekly time frame with this dead volume, we've got a range from on-balance volume. Now I've drawn support very carefully from this low to this low and extended it on out. At the close of last week on the weekly time frame, on-balance volume is right at support. If we get one more downward week, then on-balance volume would be giving us a bearish signal. That would support my expectation for further lows for the short term for Bitcoin. Technicals on the daily haven't really changed, so I'll zip through this chart. We're still moving sideways in a very, very narrow range. Strongest volume was on an upward session. Volume is now declining and pretty much dead as price moves sideways. That's normal to be expected behaviour for a consolidation. On-balance volume on the daily has a really weak range. This lower trend line has quite a strong slope, very low technical significance. ADX ADX at this time frame also is declining and the DX lines are whipsawing. This is typical behaviour from ADX telling us there's a consolidation. It's typical behaviour during a consolidation. There was bullish divergence at the last low, but price only closed $8.50 lower, $8.55 lower, so it's very, very weak. This is the other thing that makes me confident that Bitcoin's November 2022 low is most likely to remain intact. Now, I'm not 100%. You can never be 100% on any of this, but I would judge it's over 90%, maybe 95% likely that that low is going to remain intact. This is exponential growth, starting out slowly, accelerating through the middle and exploding at the end. This is what a bullish run in Bitcoin looks like. This is not what you see in a bear market rally. So that November 2022 low, I'm pretty confident is going to remain intact. So I'm keeping my eye on the bigger picture. I'm buying when prices are relatively low. I'm holding for at least 5 years, probably longer, and I'm selling when prices are relatively high. Moving on to Ethereum, this is my main Elliott Wave count for Ethereum. I expect one final low for a fifth wave to move beyond the end of the third wave, below 153971 to find support at this trend line. Wave 4 may not move into wave 1 price territory, so a new high above 1800.89 would invalidate this wave count and tell us Ethereum has found a low and it's in a third wave up. And it's actually at multiple degrees. Ethereum's technicals on the weekly. Let's have a look and see if there's evidence that this low in June 2022 is going to remain intact. This is not a bullish candlestick pattern. It hasn't closed deep enough to be a piercing pattern, so no bullish candlestick pattern. And it didn't have push from volume. Strongest volume recently is a downward week, so the volume profile for Ethereum I would read as bearish. Ethereum's also in a big consolidation with resistance about 2020 and support down here about 1100. Below that, final support 883.48. As price moves sideways, volume is declining. Absolutely typical behaviour of a consolidation. Recent weeks, however, are upward weeks, strongest with volume. Ethereum has a little range. It recently broke below support, and since then we've just seen some sideways weeks. So this supports the view that Ethereum, at least for the short term, is going to see some more downward movement. That's what my main Elliott Wave count expects. RSI is declining. The DX lines have crossed over. There's no clear trend. This is typical for a consolidation. RSI reached oversold in the June 2022 low. There was no bullish divergence, but RSI reaching oversold on the weekly time frame is historically associated with sustained lows. So there is some evidence here that Ethereum may have found that low. No change for Ethereum's technicals on the daily. Price is just moving sideways, still expecting support 1360. Recent strongest session was upward, but prior to that, down to the last low, strongest session was downward. On balance volume has a range, but it has weak technical significance because the trend lines have a strong slope and are in the same direction as on balance volume. No clear trend. The previous downward trend reached very extreme. For Ethereum on the daily chart after the June 2022 low, we also do see this period of exponential growth within its bullish run. Again, you don't see this in a bear market rally, you repeatedly see it in a bull market run. And so again, this is some evidence telling us that that previous low off to the left of the chart, June 2022, is most likely to remain intact for Ethereum. XRP daily wave count, I'm still expecting a downward thrust for a double zigzag WXY. Let's look at technicals on the weekly for XRP. At this low in November 2022, there's an extremely strong bullish hammer candlestick pattern. We saw a series of higher highs and higher lows. That's been broken by this, so this is a pullback. Now this break of this low doesn't mean this low has to be taken out, so we look in here to see if there's technical evidence that this low is likely to be sustained. Price is moving lower, volume is declining. Now that could be the early stage of a bear market. That'll look the same as a pullback within a bull market, so that's not going to tell us either way. But recent volume is very obviously strongest on upward weeks, so that's very bullish. This volume profile tells us that the current pullback for XRP is likely to be short-term in nature. ADX is declining. There's no clear trend at the weekly time frame. RSI also reached oversold on the weekly time frame. Again, given XRP's price history, this is associated with long-term sustained lows at this time frame. In fact, the only previous time this has happened for XRP was at the very beginning of its price history. So this is actually extremely bullish. That bear market was deeply, deeply oversold in a way that no other bear market for XRP's price history has been yet. So that tells us it's quite likely that low is going to be sustained. Technicals on the daily haven't changed. Price is just moving sideways. We do see a little bit of an exponential growth curve for XRP, but this is not as clear as we see for Ethereum and not as clear as Bitcoin. That one's really clear. This is probably pushing it a little bit. It does look a little bit curved, but it's not as clear a curve as I would like to see. So I'm going to say for XRP, the strongest evidence that that low in November 2022 is going to remain intact is RSI reaching oversold. That's it from me with your quick update today. Hope everyone's having an awesome day.